AITA for cutting off my parents and younger brother after they spoiled him his whole life. I never thought I'd end up here completely and utterly cut off from my own family. It wasn't a single cinematic fight or a dramatic door-slamming exit. It was a slow, creeping death of a relationship, poisoned by years of blatant favoritism, quiet manipulation, and the gradual, painful erosion of trust. The resentment built silently, layer by layer, until the foundation cracked and the whole structure came crashing down. I'm 28 now, and my younger brother Jake is 22. It's important to state that Jake isn't an inherently bad person. He's a product of his environment, molded by a core belief that was drilled into him from his first breath. The world owed him something. My parents, for reasons I'll never fully comprehend, spent 2 decades proving him right, and in doing so they made sure I understood, in no uncertain terms, that I was not the favored son. The disparity began so early it feels like a part of my DNA. Childhood memories aren't soft focus and warm. They're sharp-edged comparisons. I remember my 8th birthday. I'd wanted a specific Lego set, the big space station one. I'd circled it in the catalog for months. I got a smaller generic version, along with a practical new coat for school. I was taught to be grateful, and I was. A few months later, for Jake's 6th birthday, he merely mentioned wanting a Power Wheels car he'd seen on TV. Not only did he get it, but my parents also threw a massive party with a bouncy castle and a hired entertainer. My small family candy scream affair paled in comparison. The justification? He's the baby of the family. It's different. That phrase, "it's different," became the soundtrack to my youth. By the time I hit high school, the lines were irrevocably drawn. I got a job bussing tables at a local diner to pay for my own clothes, my phone bill, and often, my own school supplies. The work was grueling, a blur of greasy plates, demanding customers, and late nights that left me exhausted for my morning classes, but I felt a fierce pride in my independence. I was earning my own way. My parents, however, barely seemed to notice. My accomplishments were met with a perfunctory, "That's nice, dear." Jake's high school experience was a different universe. He could fail a midterm and somehow walk away with a brand new phone to cheer him up. A D on a report card would result in expensive private tutoring sessions, but also a weekend trip to a nearby city to clear his head. My mom's constant refrain was, "He just needs more encouragement," but it never felt like encouragement. It was a system of rewards for failure, a privilege earned without a shred of effort. I once saved for 6 months to buy a beat-up 20-year-old Honda Civic. The day I drove it home, oil-stained but beaming with pride, my dad glanced out the window and said, "Well, make sure you get it checked out. Wouldn't want it breaking down on you." 2 weeks later, Jake turned 16. A gleaming new SUV with a giant red bow was waiting for him in the driveway. "The reason we want him to be safe," my dad explained, refusing to meet my eyes. "You know how to take care of yourself. Jake needs a little more help." The frustration was a constant, bitter pill I had to swallow. I told myself that parenting was complicated, that maybe they were harder on me because they thought I could handle it. I clung to the hope that things would even out once we were both adults. They didn't. They got worse. Family dinners became excruciating performances. My parents developed this bizarre habit of bragging about me in a way that felt deeply condescending. "He picked up an extra shift this week. Such a hard worker," my mother would announce to any relatives present. "He managed to save enough for a new phone all by himself." I hated it. It wasn't praise. It was a character reference for their responsible, self-sufficient son, a benchmark against which Jake's lack of responsibility could be measured and excused. They weren't proud of me. They were surprised I could manage basic adulthood. One Christmas Eve still burns in my memory with perfect, painful clarity. We were all gathered at my parents' house, the air thick with the scent of pine and roasting turkey. My dad, glass of wine in hand, stood to make a toast. He praised me as the pillar of the family, the one who was so reliable. Everyone clapped politely. I smiled a faint, tight-lipped smile, but inside I felt a familiar hollowness spread through my chest. It was praise designed to placate me, to make them feel better about the gross imbalance of their affections. Later that night, my aunt, my mom's sister, pulled me aside in the kitchen. She had always been the most perceptive member of our family. "You deserve that praise, you know," she said softly, her eyes full of a sympathy that made my throat tighten. "But they're still spoiling him, and it hurts you more than you let on. They think they're helping him, but they're crippling him." Her words, the simple act of acknowledgement, were both a bomb and a sting. I could only nod, unable to speak past the lump forming in my throat. Across the dining room, Jake sat nursing a drink, oblivious. Then, my cousin Lisa, never one to mince words, suddenly spoke up, her voice cutting through the low chatter. "You know, it's one thing to help your kid out," she said, looking directly at my parents, "but you to treat him like royalty while you treat your other son like a workhorse. That's not helping anyone." The room went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. My parents' faces instantly hardened with defensiveness. "We just want to give him a little more time to figure himself out," my mom said, her voice trembling slightly. Lisa just shook her head, relentless. "No, you're letting him avoid responsibility. That's why he is still struggling at 22. Life is going to hit him like a freight train." and it'll be your fault. That was the first time someone had dared to say it all out loud, to voice the ugly truth I had lived with for years. A wave of relief washed over me, so potent it made me dizzy. But it was followed by a crushing wave of frustration as I watched my parents retreat behind their wall of denial. A few months later, the inevitable happened. Jake, after a half-hearted attempt at a local university, failed another semester and dropped out. His latest business idea, some vague dropshipping scheme, had fizzled out after a month. My parents' solution. They bought him a new car, an upgrade from the SUV, arguing that it would help him get around for job interviews. That was the last straw. I confronted them, my voice shaking with 2 decades of suppressed anger. "You are enabling him into failure," I said plainly. "You are ruining his chances of ever becoming a functional adult." My dad looked at me, his expression a mixture of hurt and disbelief. "You've become so cold," he said, "so unsupportive of your own brother." Then, the real campaign began. The guilt-tripping became a daily onslaught. My mum would call me crying, "He needs us, he needs his family. You're abandoning him." My dad's calls were more pointed. "You're the older brother. It's your duty to look out for him." They weaponized our entire extended family, dragging aunts and cousins into it. My cousin, not Lisa, called repeatedly, "You're going to regret this. Families are supposed to stick together." My aunt told me I was destroying the family with my selfishness. Jake even called me, his voice cracking with a practiced vulnerability. "Please," he whispered. "Mom and Dad think you're the only one who can talk some sense into me. Help me get on track." I wanted to believe him, but I recognized the words for what they were, a script fed to him by our parents. It wasn't a genuine request for help. It was another calculated move in their game of emotional manipulation. 6 months after that, I learned from Lisa that my parents had burned through the majority of their retirement savings to fund Jake's failed ventures and lifestyle. They were struggling to pay their mortgage. Their response wasn't to cut Jake off. It was to double down and come after me. They ambushed me at a family dinner I'd reluctantly agreed to attend. "Family sticks together," my dad said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Your brother needs help, and you're in a position to give it. You owe it to him." That was the moment I decided to walk away for good. I moved to a new apartment, changed my number, and poured all my energy into my work. I started my own company, a small but scrappy digital marketing firm. For the first time, my life was my own, unburdened by their expectations and their drama. They tried everything to pull me back in. More calls from relatives, tearful voicemails, even Jake showing up at my office. I stayed firm, though the weight of their collective disappointment was a heavy cloak I couldn't seem to shrug off. A year later, as I had predicted, Jake's world fell apart. Without the constant safety net, life hit him hard. No more cash handouts, no more co-signed loans, no more new cars. He had to face the consequences of his own inaction, and he was completely unprepared. One afternoon he showed up at my new office. He looked drained, older. The easy confidence had been replaced by a desperate, haunted look. I messed up," he stammered, his eyes on the floor. He apologized for everything, for the first time in his life. He asked if he could work for me, for free if necessary. "I need to prove myself," he said. "To you, to everyone." Against my better judgment, I agreed. "Fine," I said, setting firm boundaries. "You can intern, but there will be no money requests, no loans, no free rides. You earn your place here for a few weeks." He actually tried. He showed up on time. He did the menial tasks I assigned him. But then the old habits crept back in. First came the small requests, a few dollars for gas, money for lunch, a loan to cover his rent, just for a week. I said no, every single time. The final straw was when he pitched me another one of his half-baked business ideas, and asked for a significant loan to get it off the ground. I laughed. I couldn't help it. It was a hollow, mirthless sound. "You haven't learned a thing," I told him. "You need to learn the hard way. I'm not your backup plan." That night, he sent me a long, rambling text message full of accusations and self-pity. I blocked his number before I even finished reading it. My parents reached out again, this time with a new tactic, feigned remorse. They admitted they'd spoiled Jake, that maybe they had made some mistakes. They begged me to reconcile, for the sake of the family. But their words rang hollow. I could see the regret in their eyes, but there was no accountability, no acknowledgement of the pain they had caused me. They were sorry about the consequences, not about their actions. "It's too late for that," I told them, and I hung up. Another year passed. My company flourished. I bought my own home. My life felt clean, orderly, and peaceful. No favoritism. No guilt trips, no drama from a distance. I heard about the continued fallout. Jake burned through what little money he had, accumulated debt, and couldn't hold a job for more than a few weeks at a time. My parents' financial situation grew more dire. I heard they even asked Jake to help them with their mortgage, guilt-tripping him with the same lines they'd once used on me. "You re part of this family, you have to help." To my shock, Jake refused. He finally threw their words, and their actions, back in their faces. He told them everything, about the favoritism, the way they praised him for nothing while ignoring my hard work, the endless excuses they made for him that had left him unprepared for reality. The last time I saw my parents was at a mutual friend's wedding. They looked exhausted, the weight of their choices etched onto their faces. They were talking to another couple, and I overheard my mother's voice, thick with sorrow. "We ruined him," she said. "We thought we were helping, but we've ruined our son's life." But they never said it to me. They never looked my way. Jake tried to reach out one last time, a text from a new number. I blocked it without reading the message. I don't know what it said. I don't want to know. My peace is too valuable, too hard-won. They created this mess. They coddled one son and neglected the other. They taught him that effort was optional and that consequences were for other people. Now, the bills for that flawed education have come due, and the entire family is bankrupt financially and emotionally, and I am no longer willing to be their creditor. Sometimes, walking away isn't just an act of self-preservation. It's the only form of justice you'll ever get.